Have any of you ever had any experience with failure? Anybody ever failed at anything in your life? A few of us have. That's good. If you haven't ever failed at anything, I really recommend that you try it. It's good for you. It's good for you. And I tried this week to think about some times in my own life when I failed that I thought you might enjoy hearing about, and I didn't come up with much. I remember it took me 6 times to get my driver's license. I had to take test 6 times to get my driver's license. And the part that hung me up was the maneuverability thing, where you got to go through the cones. And I could do it. I could do it at home. I would go to the parking lot of the Catholic Church, and I could go all day long. But I would get to the place to take the test, and that lady cop would get in the car wearing all of her cop stuff. And I think it got me rattled. I think somehow I knew then that the cops and I were going to do a lot of bonding over my driving over the years. So I met a lot of cops. I thought about another time when I had this church. I was pastoring this church, and the attendance would go way up every time I went on vacation. And the people even said to me, Pastor Mike, you need to go on vacation more often because it's good for the church. And now that I look back on that and I'm older and wiser, I think that's exactly what I should have done. I should have said, I'm going to go for the next 3 months, sit on the beach, because that is just how much this church means to me. I think most people have failed at something in their life. And so you have experienced frustration. If you've ever been frustrated. I think about when my daughter was just little, just in elementary school, and she was trying to learn basic math. And actually, she's sort of not bad at math now, but at the time, she just was not getting it. And I would help her with her homework every night, and every night it would take literally hours. And she just wasn't getting it, and those nights, some of those nights were long, and they would end in tears. And my daughter would say, "Don't cry, Dad. We'll get this." And I appreciated that. So if you've ever felt that kind of frustration, you sort of kind of know how Peter must be feeling at the beginning of this story. This is about the calling of Peter. He's still going by Simon at this point, but this is Peter that we're talking about. And it says he's been fishing all night long and hasn't caught anything except a wet net, like the kids said. Hasn't caught a blessed thing. And you know that he's not on vacation. He's not doing this for fun. This is his job. This is food on his table, and he hasn't caught anything. And that's got to be frustrating. And to me, that is the most interesting part of this story. Because I think a lot of our churches, especially our small churches, are feeling that frustration. We've been called to be fishers of people. And it's been a long time since some of us have brought in a real good haul. Our denomination, the United Methodist Church, has been in constant decline every year since 1968. Every year, our conference that we're a part of, the West Ohio Conference, every year reports their total membership of all their churches combined. And the number for the membership that they reported this year was half what it was the year I got ordained in 1991. And it's not just our denomination; it's most denominations. And it's frustrating. And churches, especially small churches, are sort of struggling. A lot of them are closing. When some of you remember, you've been around here long enough to remember when I first came here, I actually had 4 churches, and 2 of those churches have closed. And churches are closing all the time. And so the frustration. A lot of churches really are trying. I think a lot of churches are really trying. I would include us in that. But it's just not, the fish just don't bite the way they used to. It just seems like people don't want to come to church anymore. And the frustration in some of our churches is palpable. You can feel it. And every now and then, somebody will have the magic solution. Like when I first started, All the experts said that the thing that's holding us back in the church, the thing that's holding us back is our churches don't have vision statements. If every one of our churches got a vision statement, then everything would be red hot again. And so a lot of churches spent hours. They had many, many long meetings where people sat in a circle around a dry erase board, and they brainwashed, and they came up with vision statements, and they said, all right, we've got one. We've got a vision statement. This is what's been holding us back. Now we got one. Now get ready, because here they all come. And nobody came. And it didn't seem to make any difference. And then after that, it was, for a while, contemporary worship. The experts said, young people do not want to sing hymns, and they don't want to recite creeds. What you need is a rock band. What you need is praise choruses, and you need to put the words up on the screen, and you need to have seeker services. So a lot of our churches went back home and went to war, and they got rock bands, and they got screens, and they got seeker services, and they said, all right, this time it ought to do it. We're looking for them to come. And nobody came for a lot of our churches. And now, it's funny, the same experts are now saying, no. Young people do not want contemporary worship. They want traditional worship. They want the robes and the bells and the smells. We'll see. Nowadays, I don't know, probably Facebook. Every church, get a Facebook page and then sit back and watch the magic happen. We've got a Facebook page, and I keep looking, but maybe they're late. It doesn't seem to work. And you're thinking, he's going to get to the end of this, and he's going to tell us what the answer is. And no, I'm not, because I don't know what the answer is. I have absolutely no idea how to get people to come to church. No idea, other than have a funeral. That's all I know. I don't think very many other people know either. And the frustration is palpable. I've asked a lot of people, what can we do? What can we do? Well, how can our church be more attractive? And I've heard lots of stuff. One young guy told me one time, you could have free beer. And I thought about that, and I thought, the thing is, that probably would work. But then people would never want to go back home. And that's not good. And our bishop, I don't think, would approve. I don't think he would approve. They won't do that. But we keep trying stuff, and churches are frustrated, and different personalities handle this in different ways. Some people just say, why are we even bothering? Why are we wasting our time? Some people have gotten a little cynical, and they say, these are the people, every time we want to try something new, they say, yeah, how many times have we been down this road? How many times have we heard about this? This is not going to work. Some people are a little more positive, and they'll say something like, well, maybe we're focusing on the wrong thing here. Maybe instead of focusing on that, we should focus on the people that are already here and just try to be a good church. Just try to be a good church, love one another, and try to serve people, and try to grow in our own spiritual walk. And if our church grows, it grows. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And that doesn't sound so bad, except Jesus said to be fishers of people. And he never said anything about it being optional. So I looked at this passage really hard this week. Looked at it really hard. I thought, where's the hope here? Where is what's the good word here that could keep us trying to fish even when it seems pointless? And I only found one thing. And this is all I got. The reason to keep fishing, even when it seems pointless, is because Jesus says so. That's it. No other reason I can think of than that. Jesus says so. Peter, he's frustrated, and Jesus says, go out in the middle of the lake and let down the nets again. And you know what Peter's got to be thinking. He's got to be thinking that this is sort of stupid. He's thinking, I'm the expert here. I know what I'm doing. I've been fishing all night, haven't caught anything. I just got my nets clean. You want me to dirty them again? And keep in mind, too, that this is probably about the middle of the day. You people that fish, is that when you want to go fishing, the middle of the day? No, you don't go fishing in the middle of the day. Fish are gone. Fish are at work or whatever. I don't know that much about fishing. But you don't catch them in the daytime. Peter had to be thinking, this is pointless, this is stupid. But he tries to be nice. He says, Master, we've worked really hard all night long and we haven't caught anything. But he says, but because you say so, I will let down the nets again. It's the only reason I know to fish, because he says so. One of my all-time favorite quotes is by Winston Churchill, the guy that all babies look like. Winston Churchill said that success is the ability to go from one failure to another with no loss of enthusiasm. And I think it's a great line for us right now. It's kind of the long way of saying, let down your nets one more time for a catch. Success is the ability to go from one failure to another with no loss of enthusiasm. We fish because Jesus says so. And I thought about this week. I think Jesus picked a really good metaphor for us. I think he really nailed it. I think this is very timely for us. To be fishers, because people who fish are crazy. In a good way. I mean, in a wonderful way. I don't fish a lot myself because I know that my personality is not suited for it. You look at me, I can't stand still for a 20-minute sermon. There's no way I'm going to sit in a boat for 5 hours going, this is about as long as I can do it. But people who fish can do that. People who fish will go on vacation and wake up on vacation at 4 o'clock in the morning. God isn't even awake. And they'll go fishing. And if they don't catch anything, they don't pack up their stuff and go back home. They get up the next day at 3:30. People who fish, some of them, will go out in the middle of the winter and go out to the middle of a lake and cut a hole in the ice and fish through the ice. Whoever invented ice fishing must have hated their family. Oh, I can figure. And it works. That's the thing. It works. The fish fall for it because the fish can't believe that anybody be crazy enough to be out fishing in the middle of the winter. But fishing people can do that. You ever know that story about the two guys that were out on the rowboat in the middle of the lake and they're fishing and they look up on the shore and they see a funeral procession go by, all these cars with the little flags on them, and one of the guys stands up and he takes off his fishing hat and he bows his head and he stands there very reverently until all the cars go by. And his friend says, I'm impressed. That was really nice. And he says, well, I was married to her for 35 years. People who fish are crazy like that. They have an enthusiasm for fishing, and they don't quit fishing just because the fish aren't biting. They keep at it. It's interesting. In the last several years, there's been a lot of studies, a lot of places on happiness. And people are writing books about happiness. What is it that makes people happy for real? What is it that happy people do that the rest of us don't do? And one of the things that all these studies come back with, time and time again, is purpose. People who are happy seem to have some kind of purpose for their lives. And I'll tell you something. I wish I would have heard that 15 years ago. I wish I'd have heard that 15 years ago. I would have written a book about it, and I called the book The Purpose-Driven Life, and I wouldn't be here right now. I would be somewhere warm because I would be a millionaire. But that book, Rick Warren's Purpose-Driven Life, it outsold every one of the Harry Potter books, every time. A book that has as its first sentence, this is not about you. Incredible, amazing, but that's what people are looking for. They're looking for a sense of purpose. They want to believe that they are a part of something that is bigger than just their own lives. And that seems to be a really important factor in whether or not we are happy. And that's what Jesus has given us right here. That's what he's given us. A meaning, a purpose, fishing for people. And just because the fishing isn't so good, that doesn't make the purpose go away. We're still part of something bigger than us. That's good. One other thing I just want to point out here, for what it's worth, even though Jesus tells Peter that he's going to fish for people, if you look at this story, the real fisherman here is Jesus. Jesus is the one who's actually doing the fishing here. He's just sort of using Peter as a tool to do it. And that's something that is kind of neat about Jesus, that Jesus will use people like Peter. And in this story, nobody is more surprised by that fact than Peter himself. When they're pulling all those fish, Peter says, "Go away from me, Lord, I'm a sinful man." He is scared. He knows now that he is in the presence of something that is incredible, that is awesome, that is beyond his imagining, and he knows that he is not worthy. And it's interesting, Jesus just sort of ignores that and says, "Forget it, I'm going to use you to fish for people now." And I like that about Jesus, that he uses ordinary people like Peter to fish with. Some people when they go fishing, they have to have all of the best equipment. They go to Cabela's and they get the sonar equipment and they get the matching hat and vest and they get the fish pheromones that you can spray on your bait, and they get the fishing reel that's carved out of a moon rock, and they get all the best equipment, and that's how they fish. Jesus is not that kind of fisherman. Jesus is sitting on the shore with a cane pole and a can of worms, which is to say that he uses ordinary people to fish with, people like us. This might surprise you to hear this, I don't know, but I gotta say, I am not a very big fan of a lot of Bible movies. I mean, movies of the Bible. I don't go out of my way to watch those very often. And the reason why I don't like Bible movies is because of the way they always portray Jesus. The way Jesus always looks in those movies. Jesus is always a pretty boy. You notice that? He's a pretty boy, and he's got these pure, white, shiny, straight teeth, which is amazing because this was before the toothbrush was even invented. And he's got the Vidal Sassoon hair, and he looks like a rock star from the 80s, and his fingernails are perfectly manicured, and he looks like a Hollywood pretty boy. And also, he looks Swedish. He's got all of the Swedish traits. He's tall, he's got the clear skin, the light hair, the light eyes, and it just sort of blows your mind, a first century Palestinian Swedish Jew. And the reason that bothers me so much is because I look at that kind of Jesus and I can't imagine that kind of Jesus ever associating with the kind of people that the real Jesus associates with. People who are not pretty boys. Jesus is not this standard of perfection. He uses ordinary people to fish with, people like us. I wanted to just sort of close with one of my favorite fishing stories, and this is a calling story, so it's also one of my favorite calling stories. I used to know a woman who was a pastor, and she would tell about how she first got called into the ministry. She said that her parents never went to church when she was a little kid, but her grandma brought her to church, and it was just a small church like ours. And she said one day, she was sitting there in the church and she was looking around at all the people and just fascinated by it all. And she said across the aisle there was a little old lady sitting there. And this little old lady sat through the whole service and prayed through the whole service. She prayed for the choir, she prayed for the preacher, she constant prayer through the whole thing. And she said that was the holiest thing I had ever seen in my life. And I knew that I wanted to be that kind of person too. She says now that she's an adult, she realizes, of course, that the lady was sleeping. She was sleeping in church. But Jesus caught another one. And he used somebody like us to do it. Jesus is the one that's fishing. It doesn't all depend on us. It doesn't all depend on us. Jesus is the one that's fishing. And he uses people like us to do it. All we need to do is just continue to let him use us to fish. And to not give up when the fishing is bad. Because Jesus says so. Let's pray. Jesus, we are thankful today that you have caught us.